this one's brought to you by a tomato juice can as a tripod, because I can't find my tripod. But anyway, we're doing a 12 pellet 395 cal 5/0 buck load today. If you guys are familiar with quad buck or 4/0 buck in 12 gauge, that's 375 caliber. This is 395 caliber, very close to 40 cal. Now I'm using a Remington hull for this. You can use a Shadot, but you will have to roll crimp it because, as you can see, the Shadots are about 1/8 inch shorter than the Remingtons, and I believe the Remingtons also have a shorter base wad. These do have more capacity than the Shadots. Now, however, the Remingtons are, the plastic's thicker, they're a little bit more narrow inside. You can actually get 40 cal buckshot stacked by twos in a Shadot. In a Remington, 395 cal is the biggest size you can use. 390 would be preferred though. I have 395 cal, so that's what we're using. 12 pellets of that. We're using little gun, X10X gas seal. Love those things. A 1/4 inch of fiber cushion wad. The pellets, ballistic products buffer of your choosing. I'm using the ITX, which again has been rebranded to BSB. And a paper thin, well not paper thin, but one section of an overshot card, 10 gauge. That's all we're using. Pretty simple load, but an absolutely massive buckshot load. This is about the biggest you can go in the shotgun world of today with buckshot, unless you have an 8 gauge. By the way, those have a bore diameter of .835, so the largest pellet you can use in an 8 gauge would be 42 cal, but not a lot of people have 8 gauges. 10 gauge is way more common. So this is about the top of the shotgun world as far as buckshot goes. I feel like that was a bit of a weird intro, but these Remington hulls come unprimed and unscabed. So I have a Shadot CX2000 in it, and I have it scabbed. Pretty easy to do. 395 cal is also a great size to use in 410. They are pretty good for 28 gauge inside of a TPS wad. They work for that too. I don't have any TPS wads, but other people have told me that it works pretty well for them. But I really don't think that the 395 cal has many uses outside of 10, 410, and maybe 28 gauge. For shotguns anyway. They're useful in all kinds of muzzle loaders, things like that, but for shotguns, 10, 410, and maybe 28 gauge. Again, I have not tested that myself. So anyway, once again, we're using little gun 43. So there's that. X10X gas seal. We have a 1/2 inch fiber cushion wad. We need to tear that in half. So we have 1/4 inch. That's what we need inside there. Gonna grab Gary Caskey's, never mind, no I'm not, yes I am. Thought I lost it. Wad nudger. Facebook.com/Gary.D.Caskey if you want any of Gary's tools. Now, in this Remington, we can't use a Mylar wrap. The pellets are too big. If you're using these Shadots, you'll again have to roll crimp, but you can use a Mylar wrap. These pellets are so big that they can, and often do, tear up your hulls. The 375 cal quad buck in 12 gauge, if you don't use a Mylar wrap, which can be difficult depending on hull, they will tear your hulls up almost every single time. But these Remingtons here are tough. So, no Mylar wrap here. That being said, they do stack by twos. You might have to help them along just a little bit, but there's two, and as you can see, it does not bulge the hull out at all. And yes, you can roll crimp this too if you want to. But let's get the rest of these pellets in here. So, those 12 pellets of 395 cal 5/0 buck weigh 2.51 ounces. Now, when you add the buffer here, it's going to be just shy of a 2 5/8 ounce load, which is 2.62, 2.625 technically. But you don't have to use buffer if you don't want to, although with these giant pellets, buffer can really help them out with the patterns. So the total payload with the buffer is now 2.616 ounces, so basically a 2 5/8 ounce load. Lastly, we need a 10 gauge overshot card. I'm just using one section off the sections of 3, and we are ready to fold crimp this now. Using a Lee Load-All here, modified from a 12 gauge Lee Load-All. Back station is the 6-point crimp. Should have the pre-crimp formed. And we do. Looks great. I have the door off of the, well, it's the primer door cover, or whatever you want to call it, but we need that or anything flat and solid to go underneath this station. Now, what I have here is a OMV Rebastator in 10 gauge, mounted to a rubber freeze expansion plug from eBay, 3/4 inch to 7/8 inch, and that just slides right up in the front pre-crimp station of the Leload-All. You'll see what that does in just a moment if you haven't seen these before. Okay, so once you have your pre-crimp formed, just go ahead and line that up and pull down once again. Check that out. That's what that does. It creates a dome around the center of the crimp, and that's going to make it look like a factory shell after you crimp this. And speaking of that, let's go ahead and final crimp it. Looks great. Oh yeah, check that out. So that right there is 12 pellets of really big buckshot. Again, 395 cal. Potent. You can see the pellets through the plastic. It's not really bulging it out that bad at all. You can feel them, but that's going to cycle in any gun, I promise. It's not bulged out much at all. Just a few thousandths. Well guys, hope you enjoyed this video. It was a lot of fun to make. Loading 10 gauge is always a lot of fun. But I think that's going to do it for me. Please like and subscribe. We always appreciate that. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down in the comment section below and we'll get back to you. And if you want to, go check out our Patreon. It's as low as $1 a month and you guys get early access to content. A link to that, as well as a link to our Instagram, Rumble, and merch store will be in the description below. But other than that, you guys take it easy. We'll see you in the next one.